Hey guys. Hello. Hello. Thanks for coming. So because of hardware shenanigans, I'm going to be presenting from right over there. We lack a female-to-female coupler, so I'm going to go over and hang out with you guys and give my slide presentation stuff. Sound good? Thank you. Thanks. So here I am hanging out with you guys, and pay attention to what I'm doing now because it's kind of cool. I'll explain this later. So we're going to launch Node WebKit. And I'll explain what this is later, but this is how I give my slides. So my talk right here is on creative Node.js. And I feel like you guys have probably all been brainwashed because you're thinking of Node.js maybe just as a server, maybe as some tooling if you've explored it a little bit. I want to change your minds on this. You know, still use it as a server, still use the tools, but kind of branch out and see what else it can do. So what is Node.js? Node.js, as we all know, it's badass rockstar tech, right? And, you know, it's awesome because non-blocking. So, you know, you can make a chat server, you can make a chat server, we can all make chat servers. That's why Node.js is awesome, right? That's what everybody's telling us. And, you know, I like JavaScript, and this is a theoretical person. I don't want to deal with Internet Explorer. I don't want to deal with CSS or HTML garbage. I don't want to deal with front-end designers telling me to make my work pixel perfect. So you know, that's a possible reason to go to Node. So let's just replace everything with Node.js. Anybody here use Java? No hands. Oh, okay. Can I, you know, get a coffee with your senior discount card later on? Is that cool? And then, you know, Ruby, cool 10 years ago. Now Node is the hotness. You know, these are all things that's kind of on our minds. But, you know, I kid around, of course, because in reality, Node.js, it's a pretty great platform. It's rising in popularity. It has a great, awesome back-end technology. You have Express.js. That's probably what you're all familiar with if you use Node. It has a hugely active Node package module registry full of tools we can download, install automatically. And of course, it's based on one of the most popular languages today, JavaScript. And I don't say JavaScript, you know, I don't have love or hate for JavaScript. It's a good language, but it's popular because we're forced to use it. So there's that. It's in all the browsers today, so we're forced to use it. It's popular. So what Node isn't any better or worse than any other language or platform, at least in my opinion. It's not a replacement for your Ruby, your Python, your Java. It's not a silver bullet to solve all your problems. But if you're going into Node, it's pretty awesome and you can use it wisely. So all this talk about web servers, I said I wasn't going to talk about web servers. So let's get off that. You know, I can fake a good back-end developer, but I have other plans. So let's talk a little bit about me so you can get acquainted. My name is Ben Farrell, and I'm going to admit to you all I'm a platformaholic. So I'm constantly on I'm constantly on the search for the next platform to do awesome things. My day job, I'm a design technologist at GE. Kind of talking about myself, well-rounded, like I like to call myself a full-stack developer, but I feel like a lot of full-stack developers are back-end with a sprinkling of client-side. I'm completely the opposite. All client-side, sprinkling of back-end. So I tweet at Ben Farrell, BeFarrell Forever. Pay attention to benfarrell.com because I have a blog post up there, save you guys from taking notes. I have a lot of links in here, some code. I don't like to bore you guys with code. I'd rather you just go online and look at it if your interest is piqued. And GE Software, like I mentioned, we build amazing things to help the world. And you know, we're kind of exploring Node use for the Internet of Things. And when we talk about the Internet of Things, like one person, many devices. So we could be talking about Fitbits, we could be talking about mobile devices, tablets, phones, connected egg cartons even, you know? And when we talk about the Internet of Things, at GE, we work on the industrial internet. So take a Fitbit, scale it up to a nuclear power plant. That's kind of what we're talking about here. So my team at GE, we use Node for a lot of web stuff, like lots of tooling around HTML5 and whatnot. So all good stuff. And we're hiring, of course, uxjobs@ge.com, gesoftware.com. If you're interested in working in San Ramon, awesome place. So back to me. Let's talk about my life. Macromedia director. This was like, oh God, it was like in 2000 I started with Macromedia director, even maybe 1996 when I was in college. But it was primarily used for desktop and CD-ROM publishing. And you know, it had out of the box animation, sound, 3D, physics. And it was cool because I could mess with your file system. I could mess with your computer. Whatever I wanted to do with your computer, I could do it because it was desktop publishing. So, you know, there was no sandboxing. And pay attention here, C++ plugin architecture. I could, if I didn't get what I wanted from Director out of the box, I could make it with C++. So pay attention to this running theme. Then I transitioned to Flash. I felt like I was shot in the kneecaps because I couldn't do amazing and terrible things to your computer anymore. I was restricted. There was this concept of a web sandbox. And you know, you don't want Flash people. I mean, Flash people have, you know, they kind of have a terrible reputation, but you obviously don't want them doing terrible things to your computer. So, you know, desktop capabilities with Flash came over time with Zinc and Air. But out of the box, vector animation, sound, video, 3D. But again, look at this, C++ plugin architecture for Air. So just like Director, we're talking C++ for doing amazing things you might not otherwise be able to do. And then browser-based JavaScript. Honestly, after Flash, I felt like I was shot in the kneecaps again. And I was hobbling around, bloody stumps on the floor. So at the time I was learning browser-based JavaScript, it was even less capable than Flash. It's better now. I mean, this was a while ago. It had shoddy video audio support. You know, there was no streaming. There was the video streaming. There was no, you know, lots of good stuff. And 3D is slowly getting better with browser-based JavaScript. I mean, 3JS, it looks awesome. I don't have to write WebGL shaders if I don't want to. So the platform is slowly getting up there. And the good bits about JavaScript is there's a huge open source community behind it. And you know, there's great mobile support with like PhoneGap and other people are lining up at the door to give you guys great mobile tools. So at this point, with both my kneecaps shot off, I was thinking browsers weren't very fulfilling. I did like JavaScript. It was a cool language. I experimented with Python, Android, iOS. You know, devices and browsers, they just seemed limited to me. I couldn't do terrible and awesome things to your computer. And server-side languages, they had weak visual support. I mean, personally, when's the last time I heard of someone making a user interface in Python? But also, you know, in the 2010s, we're interacting with the real world. We're not limited to the screen anymore. So I went on a quest. I want to figure out what I want, what I really, really want. So my favorite platform, my future favorite platform, it should be cross-platform. I should be able to run it on OS X. I should be able to run it on Windows, Linux, any version of Linux I want, right? It should also have great tooling. So if I learned a lot of new technologies, and if the tooling isn't there, it's harder, it's a steeper learning curve for me to get up there and learn it. I also want it to be very popular. I want tons of community development on this. And this ties into my last bullet point. I want good UI libraries. I don't want to have to make common things from scratch. I spent the better part of the first part of my career in every platform imaginable. I was writing buttons from scratch. I was writing drop-down menus from scratch, text areas, scrolling text areas. It got really repetitive, and I never want to go back to that again. So I also want this platform to be open source so I can tweak things. So if I find a problem with my favorite platform, I want to go under the hood, and maybe I can fix it. I want it to be extensible so I can connect to crazy tech and hardware. So these are the things I want for my favorite platform. If you guys have not checked out OpenFrameworks, you really should, because it's amazing. I mean, the demos people are showing on the OpenFrameworks links from their website, they are incredibly cool. We're talking about huge art installations, immersive experience where you're projecting like generative art on buildings, 3D sensing, Arduino. You know, this is incredibly cool stuff. But guess what? It's a C++ creative coders platform. So, you know, I was kind of thinking about it, and OpenFrameworks really wasn't for me. I'm not a C++ expert right now, maybe someday, but I feel like it's just going to slow me down when other languages and other tools might speed me up a little better. So, and like, you know, inconsistent platform tools. I'm using Xcode on OS X. I'm using Visual Studios on Windows. God knows what you're using on Linux, a combination of Make and Notepad. I don't know. No decent platform IDs. That's pretty much, I mean, yeah. And the selection of UI libraries is limited. I mean, you don't have the breadth and depth of JavaScript frameworks. You just have, smart people making things as they need them, just like any other platform. But you're coming from browser-based JavaScript is kind of a letdown. So, speaking of favorite platforms, why not try Node.js? Let's look at Node.js for a second. What does Node.js have for us? It's not just a server. It's built with the V8 JavaScript engine, packaged in Chrome, so it's very well tested, great support. Cross-platform. It's going to run on any flavor of Linux, on OS X, on Windows. Great IDE tooling support. People are lining up, again, to give you guys great tools. We have WebStorm, Aptana, Eclipse. Eclipse is based on Aptana, right? Anyway, Sublime. You have editors from Adobe. You have editors from Git. So awesome stuff there. And it's also open source. So if something breaks and I want to spend the time building it from scratch, yeah, I guess I could do that. At least the opportunity is there. I probably won't do it. Huge community support. So everybody's creating amazing things for you with Node.js. It's just it's a great ecosystem. Also extensible C++. So if something isn't there, again, common theme, C++, I can make a plugin if I really try hard enough and I pray to C++ fairies, I don't know. But the downside is it's command line only. So, I mean, it's a server-side technology as we would think, right? So that's a huge downer. But, despite this huge downer, let's take a look at a sample project I've done, video crunching. So I have a project called Shark Attack. It aggregates music, it creates radio shows. Basically, it scrapes pages and RSS feeds, grabs all those MP3 files, and it grabs YouTube files as well, and it converts everything to MP3 so I could run it as a playlist, give to my producers to have her run my radio show. And it's Grunt based, automatically runs every day for me. So I have new music coming in every day. And it's not a web service. I'm staying away from web services because that's the nature of this talk. It creates these JSON files and pushes them up FTP to my website and have a good playlist. And what's cool about this, I liked using FFmpeg. If you're not familiar with FFmpeg, FFmpeg is this awesome utility. Has nothing to do with Node. You just run it through the command line. But anything you could ever want to do with video or audio, FFmpeg probably does it. And I even cheated here in my project, and I'm using the npm module called FFmpeg node. So what it does is FFmpeg, you interact with it via command line, but I'm cheating here and I'm wrapping that even in a nice little command line or a node-based module that's provided for me. And I specify an in file, maybe that's a video file, out file is an MP3 file, and then check in when you're done. Awesome stuff. So it's pretty easy to use. And then I was trying out things with speech recognition too. So this is command line too, at least how I implemented it. So capture microphone input with SOX. Now SOX is another command line utility. It's for audio processing, audio input. So I can kick off SOX. I can receive binary data from the command line output. And I can grab that command line output with Node and send binary audio to Google servers. And I can get a JSON response of what it understands. So here's how I kind of did it in Node. You spawn a new process. I'm on Windows, so I'm going to program files wherever I put SOX. I specify what audio format I want, which is FLAC. I specify the rate, the channels. These are all just like command line arguments I pass in. And when I have a readable stream, I fire off a command. When I have data coming in through the command line, I grab that audio data, I send it off to Google. So one thing that I had this all working for you guys, and I actually stole the Google API key, which was a bad move because last night I noticed it wasn't working anymore. So that's a good lesson, but I also had it implemented with AT&T's speech-to-text API, which is comically bad, actually. At least for me, because I don't know how to use it. So let's try see what happens. So it's listening to me, so I'll probably speak a little closer to it. So this is all command line with Node in WebKit, or Node WebKit. Are you recognizing the sound of my voice? So, almost there. It's not comically bad, as I said. But I also have it rigged up. Because I'm using WebKit and I can just append stuff to the DOM, let's try a Google search. What's that? Oh, sorry. Yes, use the mic. Thank you. So yeah, since we're in the DOM and I'm in Node WebKit, see, this is the comically bad part. Yeah. But if I add in Google, I can tell it to Google an image. So hopefully this is PG rated, and I'm just going to Google something really easy. Google James Brown. And again, this works awesome if it was using the Google Speech API, but you know, it's just coming up with weird things. I won't linger. Let me try it once more. I won't linger too much on this. Google James Brown. Apparently, it really doesn't like this, so let's shut this demo down for now. All right, so my point behind all this is there's already so many command line tools you can tap into. You know, FFmpeg I covered, socks I covered. ImageMagick is another great one. I've actually just started using this one to look at websites and take screenshots and compare the differences with those screenshots and come up with a comparison file so you can look at the differences with your new version versus your old version. So it's pretty cool. And then, you know, just pure silliness, command line Twitter client. Why not? My point is, tons of command line tools you can choose from. But, you know, I wrote for a publication called Flippin' Awesome. They're a great little online web magazine. And I was very excited about using FFmpeg because FFmpeg is awesome. Converting video, it's awesome. But, you know, my first comment I got, calm down, dude. You're just using the command line. And, you know, I wasn't upset by this, but it kind of got me thinking about the difference between technical folks and those who are, I aspire to be a creative visual person. So it got me thinking, like, I like to create experiences. I want to emphasize the wow factor. Sometimes, like in my text-to-speech demo, or speech-to-text demo, completely fails, but I like to try to get there. I don't really care if the underlying technology behind what I'm trying to wow you with is simple or complex or what. I just want to do cool things. So these creative folks, I feel like we're David Copperfield. We can be magicians. And I don't know if you guys remember, but way back in the 80s, I think it was the 80s, David Copperfield made the Statue of Liberty disappear. So when the Statue of Liberty vanished, we were all like, oh my God, where'd it go? It was awesome. We didn't know how it was done. That's the important bit behind this. We just sat in awe and said, how did this happen? So I was doing a little research after this. How it maybe happened is speculation is there was a huge robotic arm holding the audience platform, and when the curtains closed, the huge robotic arm shifted the entire platform. And this perspective with the Statue of Liberty changed, but it was so far in the distance, you didn't really notice the perspective change. So now that you guys know this, it's kind of really disappointing. Kind of like how I did FFmpeg with the command line, and the other dude was really disappointed. So it just got me thinking. So we like to focus on how we interact with an experience. I don't, like I said, I repeat myself, technical detail can be dorky or cool or nothing special. I just want to wow normal people. And I feel like Node.js is a perfect platform to do that these days. And, you know, feature delight. You know, I work for a UX organization. I want to add, we try to add delightful features. We want to make a user experience. We want to make it delightful to the user. This maybe means adding a little bit of sound effects, a little bit of animation. I kind of want to go beyond that. I want to add all sound effects, all animation, all wow, you know? And again, Node.js, I just feel like it's the right platform. So back to Node.js, we just discussed it's just a command line tool. You know, there's no way to do user interaction. So to me, there's no magic. So the question is it really only good for tasks and server type things? The answer is no. Node.js in a window. So there's tons of projects, and you know, I'll clue you in. I haven't tried any of these because I just jumped to the cool stuff. So this is the stuff I just found Googling, and you know, some of it looks promising. Like Node WebGL, it was almost it was almost impossible to install that on my machine. Maybe it's because I'm on Windows and people don't like Windows, but it was just hard to get that installed. You know, I just kind of want an easier way. But the point of this slide is to show you guys that we can have Node.js in a window. But who cares, right? Node.js has been around, what, I forget now, 2009, 2010. But before that, we've had Python for a while. Java's been around forever. Ruby's been around for even a while. So, you know, with all these options to choose from, why is Node.js even special? And to add on to that, I did a little more Googling. You have Ruby user interfaces. You have Python user interfaces. I haven't heard of any of them, but I mean, take a look at the Java user interfaces. I've heard of Swing, and I don't even do Java. I've heard of Java Effects. I mean, that was a competitor with Flash and Silverlight way back when. So I've heard of this stuff. It's more mature. So, you know, Node isn't special in that regard, but guess what? It runs JavaScript, and we can play to Node's strengths with this. And to play to its strengths, we can just add WebKit. And for those of you who don't know WebKit, I mean, WebKit is what's running in your browser and controls the HTML, CSS. It's the DOM of your browser. So it's the visual layer in your browser. And you can port that to other platforms. So check this out. How I launched this presentation is in my command line, I ran Node WebKit, and I pointed it to the same directory I'm in. So that's how we're powering my entire slide deck here. So think about that for a second. I'm running a Reveal.js slide deck on top of Node WebKit, and I have some cool functionality, which I'll show you guys. So yeah, covering like package up my HTML, JavaScript, CSS as a desktop application. What I just showed you, I'm kind of running in developer mode. I can package this up and have a good application. So I can write my JavaScript. I can target Node, you know, my Node.js stuff, or I can target WebKit stuff. This means like my browser-based JavaScript can intermix right there in with my Node.js stuff. And it's cross-platform. All the stuff that Node supports, well, most of the stuff. We have some problems with 32-bit versus 64-bit, but that's later. The other thing, actually, you know what? Before we get off of Node WebKit, notice this address bar up here. This isn't a browser. But it acts like a browser, so I can look at my DOM. I mean, I have all the same developer tools right here. I can look at my console. I probably have some errors. Let's be embarrassed. Hey, I don't have any errors. I just have warnings. That's less embarrassing, but there's a lot of them. So I can get rid of this entire address bar, but I left it in to prove the point that we're kind of just running a browser here, but it's a desktop application at the same time. But, so around 2 weeks ago, Atom Shell. So GitHub makes a product called Atom. It's a great little code editor. I really haven't tried it much as a code editor. But what excited me 2 weeks ago is they open sourced the entire thing. And behind the scenes, Atom uses Atom Shell. And Atom Shell is basically the Chromium embedded framework plus Node.js. They tied the two together. So the awesome thing about this is I can build it from scratch. I don't want to do that. Or I can just download the entire package, and it's as easy as dropping your files in. And I can run it from my command line. So it's kind of like I'm running a Node.js application. So I say, hey, start this up. And in my JavaScript code, I can say, hey, spawn this HTML window. So unlike, what was the other one? Now I'm forgetting the name. Because I think that Atom is so awesome. Node WebKit. So I'm spawning, instead of HTML entry point with Node WebKit, I have a JavaScript entry point for Atom Shell. So there's that kind of shared JavaScript context that you have behind the scenes that you have to manage better in Node WebKit. And even if I wanted to build this thing from scratch, Atom gives you nice little binary files that include Chromium, and I don't have to build Chrome from scratch, even if I do want to build Atom Shell from scratch. So that's pretty awesome. They just made it extremely accessible. And I just want to show you guys how accessible it is. So this is what you get as a download. I'm going to fire up Atom. Oh, hey, drag your app here to run it. That's all you got to do. Awesome. So it's a folder of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS files. So here's another example app they give you. Oh, and hey, look, I'm reaching in. I'm grabbing the Node.js version and the Atom Shell version. I can't do that with a browser. So basically right here we have resources, the default app folder. I just replaced this with my own HTML files and I'm good to go. And I did that real quickly. I started up a Yeoman application. I just scaffolded it out real quickly. My wife actually wanted a time tracker tool. So I was like, why not create one? Oh, and by the way, here's FFmpeg. This is how it runs HTML5 video. So yay. So basically, I can start tracking time. And this doesn't do anything special beyond and above the what you'd see from a normal non-Node.js thing, except, I can write to the file system. Awesome. And then let's take a look at my resources here. So here's my latest timesheet that I just wrote. Awesome. And I'm going to show you guys some, go back to my slide deck. So a similar project, Bracket Shell from Adobe. I haven't played with it, to be honest with you, but it does look promising. The only bad part is it doesn't have a pre-built downloadable. This is what Atom Shell excites me so much, because it has that pre-built downloadable. I can get off the ground right away. I don't have to deal with building C++ and other types of things, but it is built on that CEF plus Node.js bridge. So kind of the same type of capability if you get it up and running. So add all this stuff to Node.js. You get all this stuff for free. You have Angular, 3JS, Ember, Dojo, anything you want. So this is my point. This is why Node.js is special above and beyond the other things, is because anything you do in the browser, I can just bring it on over to Node with my WebKit goodness. So I like AngularJS. AngularJS is cool. And this always doesn't, okay, there it goes. It was just a little slow on the network. So I have this web service here. This has nothing to do with Node except it's running in Node WebKit. I'm querying out to my server. I'm getting a list of MP3 files. This is all going, this is just a JSON call out online. That's fine. I made a directive. I called the directive my files. AngularJS is pretty good at that. Wouldn't AngularJS be cooler with direct Node.js file access? So same my files directive. Let's look at, so this is looking in my file folder, all my slides that I'm showing you guys right now. It's loading up, just reading the directory, giving you a list of all these files. And like I said, if you can read this line, I'm just using the file system required directive. I'm putting it inside an Angular directive. So we have a real what's the word? The Russian egg thing. So we have Node WebKit running Reveal.js, running AngularJS, and we're running Node file system calls right inside that Angular directive. And AngularJS could be the coolest if it had a Bluetooth connected infrared temperature sensor. And I left all this stuff at the podium. I'm not going to show you guys a demo with this because it's incredibly cranky. So this guy is a Bluetooth sensor. It does temperature, accelerometer, gyroscope, magnetometer. $25 from Texas Instruments. I have played around with it. So yay. But I'm not showing you guys a live demo, because working with BLE is really finicky, Bluetooth, low energy. Noble, an awesome guy named Sandeep Mistry, created a GitHub repository NPM package called Noble. It only works on OS X and Linux only. I'm working on a Windows machine right here. Linux, that side of things, relies on the Blues project. Very finicky about hardware. So I have a dongle that didn't work with it. I have another dongle that does work with it. Connections can be cranky, so sometimes it just doesn't work, and I plug it out, and plug it back in. So not very good live demo material. But, whoops, there is awesomeness to be had. So let me show you. This is actually what we did at GE one day, kind of like a hackathon event kind of thing. So this is it's that tower you saw. It's spinning the wind. It's like we have a hairdryer on the side, and we're spinning it around. And on top of that is this guy right here, the Bluetooth sensor, and it's measuring how fast it goes and sending that information down to the Noble library with Node.js, sending the information over WebSockets to that gauge right there on the iPhone, and it also powers that little Lego house with Arduino. So this is all powered by a Node.js server, and we're doing things we're not using it as a web server. We're not using it as web tooling. We're using awesome things with it. Why won't you go to the next slide? All right. Yeah, so speaking of Bluetooth, I'm noticing, state-of-the-art experiences. Back 10 years ago, it used to be, oh, we can do awesome UI components. We can do video, full screen video. We can do dynamic sound. We can do 3D with physics even, algorithmic art. Even, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, mobile started, so we're still on the screen. But guess what? We're not necessarily tied to the screen anymore, and I think Node.js can really help us on our way. And what I mean by this is Internet of Things. Like I mentioned to you guys before, we're tapping into Bluetooth. We're tapping into different sensors, heart rate monitors, pedometers. At GE, maybe we're tapping into nuclear power plants. This is just hypothetical. I'm not saying we're actually doing this. I wouldn't know. So, along with this new kind of environment, along with what our expectations of cool things are these days, there's also lots more ways to interact with things. I don't know if you guys saw the Makey Makey, but it's kind of Arduino based. You can connect wires and you can touch a banana and it sends a keyboard code to your experience. I've done some stuff with accelerometers. There's also an NPM package for head tracking for VR. So if you get the Oculus Rift, there's an NPM package that tracks your head movement and see which way it goes. MIDI-based musical instruments, I did something cool a while ago, and maybe you won't be able to hear it, but so I was playing around with 3D sensors like the Kinect, and I wrote a Node package for it. So basically I'm playing an imaginary bass guitar here. Maybe I need to turn this up. You can only hear it on my computer. Imagine me playing a horrible, horrible song, but just to get across the point that I can interact with things online. And you can see the dashboard. It'll cut to the dashboard too eventually. Yeah, I won't bore you guys with that too much. Yeah, there's the dashboard. So you can kind of see how it's interacting with my hands, and it's a new type of interface. And it just goes to show you how powerful Node can be, especially if you can try to make your own plugins with it, which was hard. What's with the hat? I was trying to be cool. I'm sorry. Do you not like that? I could say I was cold, but I really wasn't. I was just trying to be cool. So yeah, interaction can be touchless. I just showed you guys the Kinect one. Leap Motion is another cool device that just tracks your hand, but I mean, I'm not even going to bother telling you guys about this because it works with normal browser-based JavaScript. It opens up a WebSocket, so it's not even relevant to this conversation really. But point is, there's new types of interaction we can deal with. And we don't even need special sensors. We can just use our camera. So one amazing project that's been on the scene for years has nothing to do with really Node.js or anything, but somebody made a port for Node.js, a wrapper around it. OpenCV, it does computer vision, machine learning. It can recognize faces. It can detect objects, extract 3D models from photographs, follow eye movement. So let's see if this demo works. I think it'll work better than the other one did. All right, so here I am. It's drawing a circle around my face right here, and I have it set on a little timer. So if I turn my face to the side, it probably won't circle me anymore because it's using a frontal algorithm here. So maybe we can, you want to turn your head over here? There we go. Keep facing front. There we go. Yeah. So, and it's picking up some random noise in the room, but yeah. So OpenCV, this was, my thing just fell out. Just a second. There we go. So yeah, OpenCV is great. And it was a little hard to install, but the JavaScript code behind it is not that hard to work with. So here I have it open. Here I have the JavaScript code behind that demo opened up. And we're just setting an interval for, I forget how many seconds, just every second. And we're using the camera. We're reading in the image using this XML file. Basically, we're using this XML definition to just load up some kind of definition. I really don't know what it all means yet, but we're loading up this definition to detect frontal faces. And we're using that, cycling through all the faces. We're drawing an ellipse on those faces right here, and then we're saving it to the file system. And this GUI app clear cache up here, we're just clearing the cache, so Node WebKit doesn't have to deal with showing the same image over and over again. It can actually cycle through these images as I show it. So I'm going to explore that a lot further, but there's also a dark side of Node. When we talk about these people that make awesome libraries in Node, we should really just worship them like the heroes they are because they are awesome people. But guess what? If you install a package from NPM, you have to deal with questionable quality. Because, these people, maybe they're not doing this on their day job. They're probably doing it on the side. They're doing amazing work. However, just be careful about what you get. And I've noticed, I work on OS X, I work on Linux, I work on Windows. And I've noticed something about Windows. When I try to get a really complicated NPM package on Windows, the documentation really isn't there. And, I have to stand like a weird way and like touch my finger to my nose to make it all work. But you can get there. It's harder to get done on Windows sometimes. And then you also have to deal with, if you're dealing with something that gets compiled from C++, a lot of these things are, like Socket.io gets compiled with C++ when you do the NPM install. You kind of have to worry about x86 versus x64 when you're doing the compilation. Node handles all this for you in a normal environment, but when you're dealing with Node WebKit forces you to run NWJIP instead of NodeJIP. So you kind of have to manage all this yourself and figure out what's going on. So there's a lot of different stuff you have to deal with. It's complicated. And then Atom Shell, I wish they had a 32-bit I wish they had a 32-bit thing for Linux because the Raspberry Pi, I got Node running on this guy, but I can't run Atom Shell because it's not 32-bit yet. It's in their pipeline. They're going to do it, so I can't wait. But I did try. It didn't work. So, my question is, that I posed to you guys before is Node.js special? No, unless you consider all these awesome things about it, like the awesome community we're in, ties to front-end development with WebKit. I can use JavaScript, all my JavaScript tooling, CSS tooling, I can use my HTML tooling. And I would argue that it has capabilities to rival any platform you see out there. I'm not doing benchmark testing, I'm not doing performance testing, I just want to make cool stuff. My experience is that it rivals the other platforms. And of course, like I said, huge library of JavaScript tools. So this all sounds awesome. But for proof, just check out npmjs.org. Find any package you want. Do you want to play sound on your computer speakers? Install Speaker. You want to check out OpenCV? Install OpenCV. You want to try that MIDI stuff I was doing earlier? Oh, I didn't even mention that the sensing camera actually output to MIDI to play on my Korg keyboard. And then want WebGL? It's hard to install, but install Node WebGL. So anything you could possibly want, I feel like I've found it already. But what if that thing I want doesn't exist on NPM? So I had this problem. I was trying to play with my Kinect camera, my 3D sensing cameras. And it was the versions they had on NPM were outdated. I had a good C++ library that was open sourced. It was created by OpenNI, who has now been bought out by Apple. So I wanted to use this, DLL, this shared library. How do you do it? Well, you can do this in Node. Write a C++ wrapper for it. It was kind of hard though. But if you go to my website after and look at the blog post that I have, having all these links, you can grab this gist. It's just sample C++ code around making a Node module. So this is real simple right here. It's not incredibly complicated until you get until a C++, like to deal with memory and references and all that stuff. Yeah. And then compiling your add-on, you're actually using NodeJIP behind the scenes. You might not know it because it happens automatically with your npm install for most libraries. But the binding JIP file is the manifest that tells you how to build it for each and every platform you have. So you can just toss in your DLL file for Windows, your dilib file for OS X, your SO file for Linux. Use these shared libraries and make a Node wrapper for it. And then once you do that, have a complete desktop application with it through, my favorite, Atom Shell right now. So, I'm not gonna. I had a friend who presented last week showing off his Nodecopter. He actually buzzed the audience. Like there was a downdraft in one of the vents. It crashed the Nodecopter into the audience. But Nodecopters are cool. There's a JavaScript library to deal with them. You can make it do anything you want. It creates a personal Wi-Fi cloud, and you can like send commands to it and make it do what you want. I actually rigged it up to my 3D sensing camera and made it move around with my hands. The funny story with that, I mean, every funny story behind Nodecopters is it crashes into someone and spills their coffee all over the computer. But my funny story was that I accidentally went, my left hand, when it went left, it went left. When it went right, it also went left, so I crashed it into people. But also robots. Robots are cool. Johnny 5 for Arduino, and I actually spelled that wrong. Oops. But Johnny 5, so if you've ever worked with Arduino before, I think I have it on my desktop right here. So there's this application for working with Arduino called Sketch. So when you load up Sketch, you can start writing commands to have your Arduino perform. And then what you do is you save it and then upload it to your Arduino. That's cool, except what if I want a live connection? So what Johnny 5 does for Node is it lets you have this always open bridge with Node. So you don't have to keep uploading and uploading and uploading. Just create that always open bridge and just make your Arduino do awesome things. Here, I stole this code from their website. All it does is make an LED blink. But it's pretty easy to do, right? Just a few lines of Node.js. And of course, Raspberry Pi. I'm in love with the Raspberry Pi lately. Again, this is a Raspberry Pi. I have Node.js installed on it, but I won't bore you guys because it's just command line terminal type stuff that I have working so far. I actually did run, in trying to run Node WebKit and Grunt, Atom Shell on it, I actually did run like Grunt. It processed my less files, rendered my HTML, did all that stuff. It just wouldn't go as far as opening up the desktop application. So that's my point. Like, it's easy to install Node, but no 64-bit on this guy, so you're at the mercy of the libraries you're trying to use. And of course, winding this down, we can make normal stuff too. So I'm sure you've all used or heard of Grunt, Task Runner for Node.js, Task Runner built on Node.js. Bower, a package manager that also runs on Node.js. You can do CSS pre-processing. Yeoman, it's a scaffolding tool for you. So a lot of tooling for you to deal with just your day-to-day HTML5 kind of making my web application work type of stuff. So to wrap this up, I'm saying go ahead and make some cool visual stuff like Node.js. I hope you realize that it's not just a server thing. It's not just a tooling thing. But if you want it to be a server thing, Express.js is great. It's a great little server library. So that's about it. I have a few more minutes left. So let me show you guys the internals of. So actually, I want to actually show you my point about how easy it is to get Atom Shell working. So even if you were too lazy to download Atom Shell, they made a Grunt task for you. So just run your Grunt task, and it puts all that stuff in this binaries folder. So this is all Atom Shell stuff, and I didn't have to open up a zip file and download it. That was too hard, so I run Grunt. And then I created this little shell task just to run the command for Atom Shell. I'm calling into an exe, so it may not work on your computer. But, so right here in development mode, let's see if I remember how to do this. Let's see, it's Grunt Shell Atom Shell. So I'm launching Atom Shell from the command line through just a simple Grunt task I created. Better work. There we go. So yeah, it just launches it from the command line. And because it's a JavaScript entry point, we can see, I screwed up on Bootstrap because it requires jQuery. I haven't really looked at these errors. But you get all this console log type stuff. And in my default app, you can see this main.js file. That's what I started with. So there's a bunch of commands for interacting with your application. And when your app is ready, you start a new browser window. So that just really speaks to how, you can just launch, your HTML file is not your entry point here like it is on Node WebKit. The JavaScript is your entry point, and you're launching a browser window from inside here. So I think that's all I want to show you guys. Thanks for coming. Do you guys have any questions? I'll go to the front of the room in case you want to ask anything.